I should be writing number 510.
But I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
It's August. It's I Should Be Writing's birthday. 15 years. 2005. Yes. My podcast can now get a learner's permit in North Carolina. I'm very proud. So this is I Should Be Writing. I'm Mur, and I am, again, streaming this episode. We'll clean it up for the feed. But honestly, I'm having a lot of fun with the streaming. As my dear friend, Marguerite, is hanging out in chat, has helped me out with a lot of things. Thank you, Marguerite. And, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I am going to be streaming How to Fool Boyfriend soon, which is the several years old dating sim where you date pigeons. Well, lots of different kinds of birds, actually. But it's weird and a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to it. I haven't played it in a while. And when I played it, I did not play it till the end. Yeah, it's going to take a couple of streams to do so, because it'll take a couple of hours to date every single bird. But I am in it for the long haul. Really. I want to say a little bit about the Hugos. Worldcon was this past weekend. I'm trying to think of what little bit I can say, because everything is just too large. Anyway, Worldcon was this weekend. If you're listening to this in the glorious future, it is 2020 and there's a pandemic, and this was the first virtual Worldcon. And it was a big disappointment for those of us who were hoping to go to New Zealand. I think I've mentioned this before. I don't really like virtual conventions. I'm not saying they're not needed. I'm not saying they're not good for other people. I'm just saying, me personally, it's not really becoming my thing, unfortunately. Because for some reason, I get a lot more anxious when I'm dealing with being on a Zoom call on a panel than being on a panel in real life. And I don't know why. That would take probably some psychiatrist time to unpack that anxiety. But it's true. I don't like the feeling of moving from my real life to con mode and then back to real life. But this is all personal, like I said. I'm not saying virtual cons should not be. They definitely should, and they definitely are needed right now. But there were a lot of problems. A lot of it had to do with, well, let's just say somebody went through the math. Magical math of probability, and the only way for the, actually, Marguerite, if Marguerite's still in the chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the panel, people on the panels were so white that it was very little probability that with the general listing of people available for panels, that it was not a conscious decision to make it that white. Like, if you roll all the dice to put somebody on panels, you could not get probably a whiter selection. It's like they really cut out a lot of people of color. And that was really disappointing. And then there was the Hugos. And I'm just going to go through it. Let's see. Marguerite says, I'd share that assertion, and yes, there's been some analysis done that supports it, but I think it was done before the push by finalists to recruit a lot more participants of marginalized backgrounds. That's right. Yes. Near the weeks going up to Worldcon, there were a lot of people, Marguerite included, who really got together with a bunch of people and presented this to Worldcon, and they did try to make the panels more inclusive. On the other hand, I did see more than one person say, you know what, I don't like being asked at the last minute, knowing they're asking me because they forgot somebody who looks like me. Which the meaning is, you gotta think about these people from the beginning. Think about all people from the beginning. Don't just think, who are our coolest white people? Oh, maybe throw a brown person on. No. Anyway, the Hugos, George R.R. Martin hosted. It was part live, it was part recorded. He told a lot of stories about the 60s and the 70s Worldcons. He mispronounced many names, mostly people of color, but also myself. He mispronounced the magazine Faya. It's like that. You had to work to do that. He got it Fia. Let's put aside, because a lot of people have said things about it. I'm not saying it should be put aside. I'm just saying, not only is it highly offensive to tell somebody they're not worth learning the pronunciation of their name. I mean, if you, a lot of people say, what's the big deal? But, I mean, let's look at it on the positive side. If you look at, let's see, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I believe it's Rule 1 that says people love the sound of their own name. And how you can get so far by learning people's names and saying their name. And, you know, of course you can do it too much. And that gets creepy. But people love the sound of their own name. So when you say it wrong, it's gonna be bad. It's bad when you do that. So yes, it was offensive that he didn't even bother trying to see if he got it right. But also, let's just look at it from a wider standpoint of the fact that this is our Oscars. When we get together for this, we dress up. We wear, I am t-shirt and jeans girl, but I will buy a ball gown for the Hugos. And when it's live, there are performances, and there's all sorts of amazing things. But we were not having Martin, who's, I suppose they thought he was the most glamorous among us because he's the richest? I don't know. But, or the most recognizable. I don't know. But he, just sitting there at his desk, and he'd put a different hat on, which I guess alone would just be kind of wacky. But compared with everything else, it just felt like, you know, your uncle who came in off of a themed drinking party with his class of 1954, and he's about to, oh right, I was supposed to give out those awards. He had little dolls of himself to say, I'm so cool people make dolls of me? I don't know. But in the foreground, there's just like a little Funko Pop George R. R. Martin, and then there was another little thing, and then stacks of his anthologies behind him, and then the little doll sitting on top of the stacks. I mean, it was the Martin show, and it was the Martin talking about the 70s show, and it was, when you have a professional Oscars type thing, you want it to look professional. You want, if anybody ran across the Hugo Awards, my financial consultant is a sci-fi reader, and I told him the Hugos were that night, and so he got to log on and watch George R. R. Martin mispronounce my name. So, it was highly unprofessional, and it was offensive, and it was tacky. It was really tacky, and of course, he's doing a lot of non-apologies. He compared himself to Connie Willis, which I'll never forgive. I was talking with my husband about it, and he said, the way they're doing things implies that they and all of the nominees and everybody watching are all friends. And we're all Lando and Han mispronouncing each other's names. It's a little jokey thing, and I'm going to just sit here with my little doll, and it's all fun, and I'm going to tell a story about 1970 because you guys want to hear that. And I'm going to draw this out so that the nominees will sit in their chairs and squirm. That works if you're all friends. We were not all friends. And now I don't think we ever will be. Because he just doesn't care. He didn't even care when people are just like, you know what, this isn't cool. Many, many people told him that. The former president of SIFWA, the current president of SIFWA, told him, not cool. Did you count the names? There were 125 names mispronounced, or 125 names total that he had to say. Names are hard. He'd have to tap one of his staff to find out the pronunciations. He may have needed to leave the cinema he owns. Think of the children. Also, the Campbell thing. Last year, the winner of the Campbell One saying that John Campbell was a fascist and a racist. And it forced people to look at the Campbell. And they renamed it the Astounding Award, which is great. And to address that, Martin and Silverberg talked about Campbell over and over again. And I think the name Campbell was said more than any winner, nominee, anybody. And you could tell they were thumbing their nose at the idea that we could, dare to take his name off an award. Didn't even say why the Astounding Award now had the name it did. Except that he said astounding, like air quotes, like pretending, like it didn't really mean that. Like they want you to call it that, but roughly 125 finalists in total across the categories, and he butchered many, many of the names. There will be no consequences for him at all. He doesn't care about the finalists at all, so why is he constantly having finalists put in his care? Yeah, how dare we move forward? How dare we have marginalized people on the ballot? Why don't we find a good old boy like Campbell and raise him up to be the 2020 John Campbell? And I again, it's like, I wonder how much he cares about this, because we, at the position, the year I won, Matt and I won for Best Fan Cast, there was a photographer stationed to take a picture of the people as they approached the stage. So we got pictures of the people approaching the stage and the front row. And the front row consisted of Martin and I believe Silverberg. Martin, I think, clapped for two people. Every single picture, you've got this excited winner in the foreground, and in the background, yep, he's just sitting there. It hurt me a little bit. I mean, you clap, you try to be friendly and supportive and polite. Again, it's not polite to sit there and you're on camera and you just sit there. It's like when Phoenix won the Oscar, I think he won an award, and they were focusing in on Beyonce, and they didn't think that she showed enough appreciation, that she didn't clap hard enough, or she didn't smile enough, or whatever. And I'm like, she did a lot more than Martin did. Martin didn't care. He was just sitting there. And this year he got to host them. But he doesn't care. I almost said something that I don't say on this show. But I won't. Oh, and his first apology was a Voltaire quote and a comment on File 770, because he knows that's where everybody looks. A comment that finished with him explaining that so many people had called to email say they thought it was funny. This is the one black friend argument. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to say much about it, and I did, and I'm sorry, but it's still fresh. It's still anger-inducing. And what the funny thing is, I have probably a stupid fear of getting people's names wrong. And it's so bad that I know that the fear has actually made me get someone's name wrong. Of course, I apologize immediately if I do. Being a woman, sometimes I apologize when I don't get it wrong, but I apologize for just freaking out about it a little bit. I do have problems with pronunciations, but I know if I screw it up, it's on me, That was the fun thing. And then, again, going back to the virtual thing, I was tired, and instead of the wine making me drunk and angry, it just kind of made me headachy and angry, so I was ready to go to bed afterwards. So there were apparently virtual Hugo Losers parties, but I did not want to go there. And because I'd been drinking through the ceremony, which we don't normally do, I didn't need to go there and have a drink with friends and rehash, because we'd been hashing it the whole way through. That was the only good thing about the virtual Hugos, that we could comment and yell. So it was terrible, but it makes me think, of what's important. And it's just like the tiniest things. Sometimes I feel like the person who says, look, I know weddings are expensive, And you know I love you, but if you don't want to put me on the list to keep costs down, I understand. I'll send a gift. Congratulations. Those are the people you want at your wedding. The people who raise the fuss, whether they get invited or not so much. It's the caring about you. The Hugo Awards were not about Martin. At all. They were about us. They were about Escape Pod. They were about Faya. They were about Alistair Stewart and Cameron Hurley. That's who they were about. But he made it about himself. And he put his dolls on there. The dolls. That's why it's so bad. So, where do we go from here? Well, a lot of people have let George know what they think. I lose any desire to read his stuff. He's good. It's not like, I mean, it is going to be a loss. I was looking forward to the next book. But I won't be able to read it without thinking about that night. And that's me. If it doesn't bother you that much, buy it, read it, enjoy it. But I don't think I can. Al says, for the record, I'm delighted to tell him what I think in detail with diagrams to his face. If you need a TED Talk on why he sucks and should go away, I am, in a very real sense, your Huckleberry. Thank you, Al. Yeah, he's going to have colored photos and arrows and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to talk about some other stuff, but this is just... Clearly, there's some wounds that are still fresh. Yeah. I think what the biggest thing we need to do... if you are not someone who's good at the photos and with the information on the back of each one and circles and arrows and all that stuff. But if you're not one of those people, if you fear confrontation, how you deal with it is you remember that your career is about you. You remember that when you sit down to write that book, that is about you. And when it comes out, that's about you. And when it gets nominated for an award, that is hugely about you. And if somebody else takes it away from you, like bloviating for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, I lost track. It was so many hours. It stings. But we still have to remember that the awards are about us. The work we did. And if you were one of the nominees or one of the winners, congratulations. Because it's not easy. Keep making your stuff. It never was not about you, even though some people tried to make it not about you. They can't wrestle that away from you. They can throw mud at it, but they can't take it away. So keep making your stuff. Hopefully, definitely next year will be better. And, let's see, total ceremony was 340. The fan-prepared speech only cut is 140. 1 hour, 40 minutes. Yes, fan went in and took out most of Martin babbling about 1973. Thing is, I just celebrated my birthday. I was born in 73. I know for a fact that it was a long freaking time ago. Okay? We're not talking about, like, a story that maybe 50% of the people in the audience could have related to. Not even that. When the Toastmaster Talks Less is the name of it. Keep making your stuff. The sad puppies may come along and push you off the ballot. That doesn't mean you didn't make something amazing. Martin may come along and make another 3 hour and 40-minute Martin show with some badly pronounced names off to the side. But little figures dancing around. You know, if he'd made the figures fight each other, that still would have been bad. Again, it would be one of those things where if that was all that happened, it might be funny. Oh boy. Yes, context can really sour a gag. Thank you for listening. And if you know somebody who was nominated for Hugo, whether you've told them before or not, whether you know if they're upset or not, I think you should contact them and say, you know what? You rock. The thing you made is amazing. And I'm sorry you didn't get enough attention for it this past weekend, but you're still amazing. And I'm telling you, anybody in the chat, that You guys are amazing. If you were nominated for Hugo, you're amazing. If you're working on your career and hope to someday be nominated for Hugo, then you're willing to put in the work. And I still think you're amazing. But my time is through here. Apologies for that. But I am Mer Lafferty. This is I Should Be Writing. And I really should be writing because I have, deadlines and stuff. Yes. How that works out. But I'm enjoying it, so I want to keep doing it. Thank you guys for showing up. Thanks, Alistair and Marguerite, for trying to put stuff in the chat that my bot kept eating. So, apologies there. Actually, if you guys don't mind, can you send me the links you were trying to post, and I'll put them in the show notes, because I'll be cleaning this up and sending it out on the RSS feed. So, anyway, you're amazing. Keep writing. Wear your mask. Go watch something fun on TV to take the taste of that Hugo Award ceremony out of your mouth. And I will see you next time. Until then, you should be writing. Remember, you can support the show at patreon.com/mightymer. I Should Be Writing theme music provided by John Anelio. You can find more about him at johnanelio.com. This podcast is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license.
But